Ciao a tutti, buonasera a tutti, è un onore per me essere qui questa sera con Isabella Maldonado e Jeffery Deaver, autori insieme a quattro mani di un romanzo, di un thriller molto affascinante, molto coinvolgente, che è Fatal Intrusion, che è un libro sorprendente e che lascia veramente col fiato sospeso. Mi sono molto appassionato a leggere il vostro libro, veramente molto, e mi chiedevo, così proprio partendo, avete ideato i due personaggi, i due protagonisti, due buoni, li avete ideati uno per ciascuno, cioè la detective Sanchez più Isabella e Jeffrey più Jacoby, oppure avete fatto tutto insieme?
Well, I'll just jump in here quickly. First of all, thank you for your kind comments. And I will also add that to some extent you are correct. However, the book is really um, a product of 100, well, I'll say it's 100% 50-50, if that makes any sense. That we both worked on all of the characters, all of the scenes, all of the outline. So it's a product that does sort of reflect our personal sensibilities, each character, but it really is a product of both of our efforts.
Il mestiere di scrittore è un mestiere solitario, uno si mette e lavora, pensa, crea. Com'è farlo in due? Cioè, com'è che è nata questa idea di fare un libro a quattro mani?
Isabella, you want to jump in on this because you tell the story
Yeah.
quite well.
I'll talk about this a bit. Jeff and I first met in Chicago several years ago at a writers' conference, and we were in the green room together, and we just started cracking each other up, making a lot of jokes, and we realized that we got along together really well. And we also met again at another writers' conference at New York, and then again in Arizona when he came out, and we talked about it at length. And neither one of us has ever written together with anybody on a full-length novel. And we decided, you know what? Our writing style is very similar. We get along well together. We write the same kind of things, and let's do it.
Ecco, io so che Jeffrey studia molto prima di iniziare a scrivere, cioè ha già programmato poi come si svilupperà tutto il libro, lascia poco al caso estemporaneo. Anche tu, Isabella, ti sei adattata quindi a una scaletta che avete fatto e che poi avete seguito sempre?
Yes, I had always outlined, but not to the extreme degree that Jeff does. He really does it very much more at length. I always had a looser outline, but working with Jeff, absolutely, we had to have a very precise outline just because we both wrote together. So in order to do that, you have to kind of know where you're going. Otherwise, you might get lost along the way.
And if I may, having the outline gave us a good, I guess I would say, strategy for approaching the book, because we could each decide that we wanted to write, let's just say, chapter 37. Isabella thought that might be appropriate for her. I would say I'd like to write chapter 45, and we could write that in any order. We didn't have to start at the beginning and go all the way through. And it made the actual creation of the book a much easier and less painful process than if we had to, say, write up to chapter 2, then I'd hand it over to Isabella and she would come up with ideas. She'd hand it back to me. So we did a lot of the work at the front end, and that made the mechanics much easier.
E siete sempre andati d'accordo? Cioè, non ci sono mai stati contrasti? Isabella diceva: "No, secondo me adesso Sanchez deve fare questo", e tu invece dicevi: "No,
Um,
meglio che faccia quest'altra cosa?"
Well, it was, of course, a creative product, and whenever you have creative artists, and I use that term very broadly, you're going to have some disagreements. But it was, we should establish this, that we set out at the beginning to create what we called, and this is Isabella's phrase, a no ego zone, and it was our project was all in the service of the readers. And if we disagreed about anything, it was that, oh, this might not be the best for the reader. And we worked it out. We have not had a single argument in the creation of 2 books because we've written the sequel. Don't you agree, Isabella? Unless you have to say, oh, no, there were moments when I was quite cross. But I think.
No, not it. The only thing I would add is that we absolutely did. We got along perfectly well, but we also edited each other's work extensively. And I think that's one of the reasons why the book is very cohesive. You really can't tell who's writing what because we have joined our voices and blended them together well from the cross editing. So it really does come across like one person wrote it.
È vero, è vero. Però chi ha avuto l'idea della pallina bianca?
Well, we wanted to have roulette. We wanted there to be the gambling element, and the pill is the word in English for it, the roulette ball. And I think that the idea of incorporating it into each crime scene sort of came through the process of accretion. Really, we both just developed it. And that's how a lot of things happened is we would talk back and forth, and then the ideas would sort of generate together.
And the white ball that we were talking about is, for those of you in the audience who have not read the book yet, is I guess you would say, a token of death and disaster. It's sort of a little motif, and it's the ball that's in the roulette wheel. And that was a result, I'll expand a little on what Isabella was saying, of one of our many 3 and 4 hour conversations. The outline did not just appear, it was forged. And we would go back and forth. And I'm glad the new telecommunications programs for mobile phones do not charge us by the hour long distance, because we would be broke now. We had so many lengthy conversations. But the little white ball was one of those motifs, and there were many others, like the spiders, for instance, and the webs.
Ecco, proprio a questo volevo arrivare. Questo libro è affascinante, è interessante anche perché tutto viene spiegato. Per esempio, io ho appreso dell'esistenza di alcuni tipi di ragni di cui proprio non sapevo nulla, per fortuna, devo dire. E oltre al funzionamento delle indagini negli Stati Uniti, dei vari dipartimenti, non so come chiamarli, ma anche dei meccanismi della roulette. Quindi c'è molto studio dietro a un libro del genere.
Well, for me, it was a matter of, Jeff did a massive amount of research on spiders, and I did a lot of the research on the law enforcement aspect. And yes, I used a lot of my own background from 22 years in law enforcement to make it as authentic as I could. But I still had to do a lot of research because I never worked for the particular branch of law enforcement that Carmen Sanchez does. So that required quite a bit, but certainly the way it all works together is actually very authentic.
And let me say, too, if I may, about the spiders and about the book in a broader sense, and I'll echo what I said before. Readers are our gods. They are paramount. Everything we write is in their service. Fatal Intrusion is typical of both of our books. It it's a roller coaster. It moves very quickly over 2 days. There are many surprises. Each chapter launches into the next chapter, big surprise endings. That's Pearl. And part of that is that we don't hurt any children. We don't hurt any animals. So if any of your viewers out there are concerned, there was not a single spider killed in the entire book.
Un'altra cosa che hanno studiato molto, che è veramente molto approfondita e credibile, è il mondo del web e delle intrusioni anche via web. Ed è un mondo difficile. Quello penso sia stata una difficoltà ulteriore nel creare questo libro.
I'll speak to that if I may. I've written probably a quartet of books about the novels about the internet, the dangers of the internet, books like La Finestra Rota, Profondo Blu, and they're all available in Italy. And so I've always had this interest that because I like to scare people for a living, and what is more frightening than this internet that reaches into our lives and has the potential to do great good, but also has the potential to do great harm. So that's why I created this concept of the intrusionist. That's Jake Herron, the male lead, and it seemed to be something that was very much in everyone's mind, and is well, first of all, it's a concern. So Isabella and I could use that concept as a tool to scare readers. But the book is more than that. It's a warning in a way about the dangers of the internet for use by terrorists and by people who are not necessarily terrorists at all, but who have access to the web and access to people's lives and just choose to do bad things. We wanted to make the public aware of that.
Certo. E veniamo ai cattivi, perché in questo romanzo, in questo thriller, c'è un cattivo, diciamo il principale, ma c'è anche un altro cattivo, adesso senza voler svelare nulla. Quanto è importante la figura negativa, la figura dell'antagonista, del nemico, quindi di quello che rappresenta il male in un thriller?
I can talk about that a bit. We both put a lot of energy into creating the very best antagonistic forces, and especially because we both write thrillers with multiple levels and layers, there are always going to be more than one kind of layered antagonism. And I always say that every villain is the hero of their own story. And so to accurately portray a villain, you really do need to spend time in their mindset. And again, this is where, having dealt with a lot of criminals is very helpful, because you do understand kind of a lot about how they think.
Vi affezionate al cattivo delle vostre storie? Cioè, a un certo punto provate una sorta di simpatia, quasi di affetto, anche per l'elemento negativo dei vostri romanzi?
Well, that's part of the process. I mean, I personally am fairly detached from the characters and the events in the book. I feel like I'm a neurosurgeon, and she walks into the operating suite and she does her job and she leaves, and emotion isn't really a part of it. Or a pilot, looks at a beautiful sunset but doesn't care because his job is to fly the airplane. And I try to step into the shoes of the readers and say, well, this is a very good bad character, and if I were a reader, he or she would scare me, and I would be very emotionally engaged. But I'm kind of distant in that. That's just a personality aspect of me. And actually, it's a question that Isabella and I have not had before. So grazie.
Isabella, i cattivi che ti immagini e ti inventi sono simili a quelli che incontravi quando lavoravi per le forze dell'ordine o sono più affascinanti questi cattivi?
Yeah, the ones I create are far more fascinating and intriguing than the run-of-the-mill criminals that I dealt with in law enforcement. But that is all of fiction is that way. It's like any art. It's a stylized version of reality. And so I think the important thing is to create a personality that no matter how you feel about them, how angry or sympathetic or disgusted or outraged you are, whatever the situation is, you can't look away.
I've often had the thought that we could save a lot of money if we eliminated all the criminal codes and established one crime, and that crime is stupidity. And what that would mean is that in all of our books, they would be 2 chapters long, because most criminals, not all, but most criminals really are not very bright, and they make many mistakes that would allow our heroes to catch them right away. So the villains that Isabella and I create are far smarter than most criminals, and they have more resources. And they also have the added advantage of having no moral compass. And that puts them at sometimes an advantage over our heroes.
Bene, io concluderei dicendo che questi personaggi non possono finire, ma l'avete già annunciato che c'è già un secondo libro con loro protagonisti, ma queste storie andranno avanti, le loro storie, spero.
Yes, we have a title, and that is The Grave Artist, and about which we can say very little, because we are suspense writers, and it's our job to leave all your wonderful viewers in suspense. But it does carry on the saga of Jake and Carmen in their unique crime-fighting organization known as I Squared, or Intrusion Investigations. And this, well, Isabella, do you think I can say this? This book will have an international flair to it. And I guess maybe we better not say anything else, but I have a feeling that your viewers will enjoy it.
Grazie. Thank you so much.
Prego,
Thank you very much.
Grazie a te. Grazie.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Ciao.